Hi, everybody there?
Hi, this is Emily. I'm here.
Hi. How are you guys
Hi,
doing?
guys. Hi, I'm good. I'm sorry, I'm at my in-laws right now, so I don't have video chat access, but I figured I'd join by phone.
Okay.
Who's gonna record it?
Sorry, I was just joking. How is everybody tonight?
Good.
Good, thanks.
Okay, so I've been working on my part of it. The thing that I can't seem to find is the citations for the first part. It says concrete issues will you focus on and why? I've looked through all the readings and this whole module, and I can't find citations for concrete issues. They only talk about it one time, and that was in the guidelines, and it didn't give any definition or anything.
Okay, I'm confused.
Yeah, I think we're talking about the depression module that we're the depression assignment that we're supposed to record as a group.
Yeah, the suicide statistics.
Yeah.
I think it's what we think is the cause of suicide.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're talking
Okay,
about,
I see which one you're talking about now. That one's not due till the 20th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
we can talk about the previous assignment like at a different time, but this recording has to be for the
Yeah.
statistics. So when I
Okay.
was just kind of researching, one of the things that I noticed was that some people are saying that the increase of suicide since 2006, I think.
Maria, who's recording? Because we have to record it and then upload.
Somebody's recording it already. I
Oh,
don't
they
know.
are? Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
I am.
I don't know.
It's okay.
So one of the things that I saw was that they, the literature that I read was basically saying that it could be attributed to the increase in opioid addictions, which is something that I think, when you have a substance abuse problem, that really could lead to some issues that could lead you to feeling like you want to die by suicide. But one of the things I wanted to point out in that was that it said something like they use the statistics for the opioid overdoses as suicides. So I was a little kind of confused by that because I think the whole point of suicide is that it's intentional. So what if it was an accidental overdose? How do they really determine?
I think they determine that by it's the person's choice to take the opiates. It's their choice to either stick themselves or snort it up or whatever they do. So in effect, they are creating their own death, even though their intention's not to die. They know that is a possibility and they don't care.
So what I have found just, in my professional experience working, is that those that die by opioid overdose, where it could be an accident sometimes, that normally, the people would look at what was going on in their lives at the time. Were they facing a crisis? Had their use of opioids increased? Had they been giving things away? Had they been exhibiting a sign of hopelessness, maybe even left a note, things like that. And so, I think that a lot of times when people feel hopeless, they act in ways that are reckless and not taking care to protect themselves. And so that could be in any number of ways, speeding, driving too fast, risk taking, and then certainly, taking too much of an opioid, because usually when people are using opioids, they know how much to use, based on how they want to feel. So they're going to know if they're using too much and overdosing.
Well, I know that there's also the part where they try to get clean, like they'll go through a rehab program and then they relapse and they go back to their original dosage, not realizing that their body can't sustain it. And that
definitely, that dependence drops.
Yeah, and that causes a lot of death also.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
not
The other thing that I thought about with this is, there's so much more teenage suicide now. And, you know, I mean, it's been reported that so many more teenagers, like 13 and older, are dying by suicide. You know, so that definitely contributes, you know, to the suicide rate, not just for adults, but for those children as well.
And Emily, to go along with that, I'm actually working and interning at intermediate middle school, and suicides and suicide attempts seem to be really high
Yeah.
with that student population. And a lot of it I learned is they don't know how to deal with like stressors that's going on in their lives. And the only way that they do know how to deal with it is you know, suicide or attempted suicide. And then not only that, I feel like social media plays like a huge role.
I agree.
I don't know if you all heard about, I think her name's Momo or something, that's
Oh,
popping up on the kids. Is it YouTube or something like that?
It's a kid's YouTube app.
Yeah, and teaching kids how to like slit their wrists and things like that.
Yeah,
So,
from what I understand, I heard from a parent that the thing is popping up and telling them if they don't kill themselves, they're gonna kill their parents, and
yeah.
like it. I mean, it's some really dark stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, even if they're not, you know, dying by suicide, it's just, I think, introducing that whole concept into, you know, just a young culture, and, you know, kids that don't have that impulse control. And they also may not, you know, kind of be trusting of adults. And so they're going to their peers for advice and things like that. And I think that's definitely what's contributing to that kind of, you know, whole thing that's going on.
And bullying also contributes to that a lot.
Yeah,
see,
definitely.
like, attempted suicide, or, you know, suicide by, you know, by being bullied. They feel like they have no way out. So,
And to touch on the bullying aspect, I think that technology has kind of made it a lot worse, because you're not just going to school bullied anymore. You're being bullied in your own home, like, you know, on your phone. Which, you know, everybody here probably has their phone on them 24/7. You're being bullied like pretty much anywhere you go. So I feel like that has, you know, probably attributed to why suicide has increased, because I'm not exactly sure when technology started booming, but it was probably around the early 2000s.
and when I think of suicide too, I think of veterans. A lot of the veterans who are, you know, coming home from the war, from having PTSD and things, think of suicide a lot when it comes to them.
Yeah, I was just going to say that actually. I, for my last internship, was actually an employment-based internship, and so it was at a psychiatric hospital where patients went through an intensive outpatient programming. So it was like 9 hours of group therapy a week, and there were several veterans that came through that program that were just kind of dealing with, you know, just assimilating back into civilian life and kind of trying to deal with what they had seen in the war. And, you know, fortunately the two that I treated, you know, came for help. But many of them, I feel like, you know, are turning to suicide as an outlet.
And just from personal experience, it's not even just veterans that went to war. My husband is active duty military right now, and we've lost quite a few friends. Probably, I think we've lost like 4 people that I've personally known and hung out with and been friends with to suicide in the last 6 years. And my husband
Wow.
has friends that are more than that. And I mean, we're not really like, I mean, I guess we kind of are in a time of war now, but we're not, you know, these friends that my husband's with, they're not going and boots on the ground war. You know, they're doing little deployments that are like, I mean, the same as my husband does, where it's different when you're on a ship and you're just kind of sailing around, but they're stopping at ports and hanging out and having fun with each other. They're not seeing combat. But, you know, I don't know what it is, but we've still had a lot of friends that have, you know, taken their own lives. And it really is just kind of weird, because a lot of people just say, oh yeah, veterans coming back from the war, but it's still an epidemic now when we're not even really sending people to war.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, there's so much secondary trauma that goes on, you know, I mean, not just the people that are serving the front lines, but like you said, you know, family members and children and friends and neighbors. Yeah, the secondary trauma is definitely real with that.
And something else I've kind of noticed too is the last friend that died recently, a couple of months ago, he was getting out of the Navy and really didn't have family outside of the Navy. And I don't know if anybody's familiar with anybody in the military, but when you move away from your family, because I'm from Indiana, but I live in Virginia, like the Navy, the people that your husband works with become your friends. Like my best friend is, you know, her husband works with my husband now, and like she lives here with us, and it really becomes a family to you. So when you get out of the Navy and you lose that, like I can see how you can feel so disconnected from reality because you've been in this close knit community that other people don't really recognize what it's like what military life is like. And when you kind of lose that, or you think you lose that just because you're getting out of the military, I guess it is just too much to bear for some people, at least.
I think that suicide is rampant across all sections. I mean, it's not just like one specific group or one specific age. Like my job is I work as a home-based caseworker, and we have a suicide risk assessment that we have to do with every client, every adult. And I think it's just getting that suicide risk assessment out and making sure that everyone knows that there's somebody they can go to, somebody they can talk to, that they're not alone. I think that's a big help too.
Right. Did anybody happen to look on the CDC's website where it shows like the highest rates of suicide by occupation?
No, I didn't see that one.
No, I didn't. I've heard that it's like psychiatrist and like pharmacologist. That's just off the top of my head.
Well, this one says, I didn't see those ones on there, but those might be more recent. But in 2015 for males, the major occupational group was construction, which I thought was interesting. And then for females, it was arts, design, entertainment, sports, and media. So to me, that kind of sounds like maybe journalism type thing.
That's interesting. Did it say did they say like why, you know, they think that it's those professions?
It didn't really specify why. I mean, it gave some like generic reasons, like why like somebody experienced crises or they're having financial problems or, you know, like just generic things that we all just kind of know. But yeah, it didn't say exactly why by that occupation. I really don't know about the females, but for the males in construction, I was kind of thinking, well, normally it's middle class families that are, you know, construction workers, and construction is kind of seasonal. So, you know, if you get laid off in the winter, then that could bring that financial stress on you. You know, construction's not an easy job either. So they might, you know, feel like they're working a lot. I don't know. It didn't really give exact reasons, but I thought that was interesting to look at it by occupation.
It also says it also goes by age and by population. Like it's the third leading death of people between 10 and 14 years old. The third leading death. That's
crazy. The third.
It says
wow.
It's the second leading death. This was from 2015, but it said the second leading death among 15 to 34-year-olds. So that, I wonder what the first one is.
Right. You probably like accidental death or motor vehicle accidents or maybe.
Yeah, but it goes on like that. It also does like population, like who are at risk for or higher risk than the general public, people bereaved by suicide, people in justice or welfare settings, and people who intentionally hurt themselves, non-suicidal injuries. I mean, they break it down for you and go through what they try. I mean, they try to give you as much information as you can. I just couldn't believe it's the second and third leading death between 10 and 34. that's a lot of deaths.
Have you all thought about the physician assisted suicide? Now that's becoming legal in some states.
I agree with some of the measures that they put. I mean, if the person, I kind of agree with that, just because if the person's wanting to die, they're going to figure out a way. I'd
Yeah.
rather them die peacefully by a doctor than slitting their wrists or shooting themselves or
Right.
something painful that they might survive and then have to go through that along with whatever disease is slowly killing them.
I think so too. You know, the NASW Code of Ethics, you know, says that we uphold the dignity of the person. And with a chronic illness, you know, I feel like physician-assisted suicide is upholding the dignity of that person. It's helping them to die, you know, by their own terms instead of dying, you know, kind of like you said, just a slow and painful death.
Yeah. And just from our modules in Indiana, like the part that we read about in Indiana, when it says, according to the Indiana Youth Institute, Indiana has the largest rate in the country of teens who have considered suicide and the second highest rate of those who have attempted. That just feels, I don't know, because I live in Indiana. I'm not sure where you all are from, but that was a shocker to me to read that.
Yeah. You don't think about it. I mean, like I said, when I was going to school, suicide wasn't really something that we had to worry about a whole lot. I mean, back when I was in like high school or, you know, one of those younger ages. So the fact that this, I mean, is so prevalent so fast. I don't know if that's just because people are talking about it more.
Well,
And like in the social media.
I think it just depends person to person, because I actually have the opposite experience as you. I have two very close personal experiences with losing someone to suicide, just being in high school. So it was something that was really talked about. And we lost, actually, I was in 8th grade when my best friend's brother hanged himself in his home, and his family found him going to wake him up for school. And he was actually a sophomore or junior, I think, and we were in 8th grade. So it was something that all through high school and even in 8th grade, it was really something that was talked about a lot, because I graduated with like 70 people. So it was really a small school. And, you know, we had counselors that 8th grade year, and then all through high school, it was like a really touchy subject, because we would try and talk about suicide in class, but you know, you had somebody there who lost their brother to suicide, so it was always something you like had to tiptoe around as well.
It was a trigger for them.
I wouldn't necessarily say it was a trigger to where it, like, you know, made her like, it wasn't like debilitating for her. It was very emotional for her, to where, you know, I remember one time we watched a video, which I'm glad my school did this, but we watched a video about like suicide awareness or something like that. And they gave her and any other student in the room the option to not watch the video and leave, just because it was something that it was just a really emotional thing, understandably. But I think my school did a really good job, like, you know, recognizing that somebody in that school committed suicide, and you know, they didn't just sweep it under the rug and try and, you know, be quiet about it. They really were trying to talk about it, open up a dialogue.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, I think it's great that they, you know, like you said, opened up a dialogue and just, you know, said this is what it is, and we're going to talk about the elephant in the room, and you know, everyone is free to talk about it and also to process it, you know, in their own individual way.
One other thing that I wanted to point out when I was just kind of researching a little bit is that a statistic that I saw was like people without a known mental health conditions that committed suicide were most likely to be male. So it kind of like showed how there's that stereotype that men are supposed to be strong and not show weakness and all of that, so they don't really seek help when they feel like they do, and then sometimes it leads to them ultimately taking their life. So I thought that was interesting, that most of the people that nobody knows that they have a mental health issue or it's been undiagnosed are actually men.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I saw a really funny billboard one time that said the leading cause of death in men is stubbornness. If you guys are married, or if, you have dads or men that you're close to in your life, it's sometimes difficult getting men to go to the doctor. And, like you said, because they have just kind of like a perceived social status, they're supposed to be strong, and, they're not supposed to have to go to the doctor or be weak or be sick or anything like that. And I think that that's probably definitely a reason that they tend to, have mental illnesses that are that kind of go untreated or unrecognized.
And I was reading somewhere the difference between men and women when they commit suicide. Men will commit suicide in more of a, I don't know how to phrase it or how to word it, but women would be like more likely to take pills rather than like shoot themselves or, something like that. It's just suicide's different.
I heard, or from what I've read and seen, they say that women worry more about the mess they're going to leave behind.
Yeah.
Right. Like who's going to fight them, who's going to clean up. Yep.
Exactly. Than men do. That's why women are more like something that's not as messy or as overtly out there, like shooting yourself or anything like that. Or if they do, like if they cut their wrists, they're going to do it in a tub.
Mm-hmm. And definitely in my professional experience, patients that I had who had survived suicide attempts, it was normally the women that had taken pills and normally the men that had attempted to die by hanging.
Mm-hmm.
And I find
anybody else? Sorry, go ahead.
I just find it, it's sad, but I find it interesting that they could break it down into such groups like they have. And I think that it's really interesting to learn about it.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny how we're all, so different yet the same,
I think trends are just really important to know, because if you don't find these trends, then people are never really going to understand it. And if you don't understand it, then you don't know how to combat it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. It's so important to just talk about it, make it, known and make it okay to talk about.
All right. Is there anything else that we need to discuss or anything else anyone wants to add?
I didn't really have anything else. I think that we had a good conversation. I definitely appreciate all of your, input and, different things to think about.
Whoever is recording this, are you able to upload it for us all?
I think I am, so I should be able to as soon as we get off.
Okay.
Because it says I can stop it, so I'm assuming it just automatically started recording when I got on here.
Yeah, you might have to maybe cut the video from at the end now and then maybe at the beginning a little bit too.
Yeah. I'll look at that and see what all we can do.
And can you just let us know once you do it?
Yeah.
Upload it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let me go ahead. Do you want to stop cloud recording?